My name is Alex. A few weeks ago, my life was a mess. I had just ended a long, painful relationship, and my job was driving me crazy. I needed to get away, even if it was just for a few days. I wanted silence, peace, and most of all, to be alone. That's when I found the listing. It was a beachfront house on a small tropical island I had never heard of. The pictures showed a beautiful wooden home with white walls, large glass windows, and a pool that looked out onto the ocean. It seemed too perfect and too cheap. Only $70 a night for such a place? Still, I was desperate. I didn't ask questions. The listing had no reviews, but the host responded quickly when I asked about availability. The reply was short. Yes, it is available. I hope you enjoy your stay. That was all. No greeting, no name. Strange, but I didn't care. I booked the house and took the next flight out. The journey to the island took nearly a day, and by the time I landed, I was exhausted. A man holding a sign with my name on it picked me up from the small airport. He didn't speak much. I asked him about the house, the island, even the weather. He only nodded or gave one-word answers. We drove for over an hour. At first, the roads were paved and smooth, lined with small shops and houses. But soon, the houses disappeared. The road turned narrow and rough, surrounded by thick trees and tall grass. I lost signal on my phone. The air felt heavy, like before a storm. Finally, we stopped in front of a gate. The driver pointed at it and said, "You are here." I stepped out of the car and walked to the gate. It was made of dark wood and had no lock. I pushed it open, and it creaked loudly. The house stood about 50 feet away, just as the photos showed. It looked clean and beautiful, with palm trees around it, and the ocean just beyond. There was no one there to welcome me. No host, no cleaner, no staff. I looked around and called out, "Hello?" Nothing. Just the sound of waves and distant birds. A note had mentioned the key would be under a potted plant near the front door. I checked the plant, and sure enough, the key was there. But something was odd. It was warm, almost hot, like it had been sitting in the sun all day, though the plant was fully in the shade. I used the key to unlock the door. It opened smoothly. Inside, the house was spotless. The air smelled like lavender. A small welcome basket with fruits and a bottle of wine sat on the kitchen counter. I set down my bags and looked around. The living room was cozy, with a couch facing a large window that looked out onto the sea. The kitchen had shiny counters, and the fridge was already stocked with basic groceries. Upstairs, there were 2 bedrooms, both with clean sheets and folded towels. Everything seemed perfect. Too perfect. I kept getting the feeling that I was being watched. I shook it off, blaming my tired mind. Back downstairs, I found a small envelope taped to the inside of the front door. My name was written on it in perfect cursive handwriting. The ink was black and didn't smudge when I touched it. Inside was a single sheet of paper. It was a list. A list of rules. 1. Do not open the door after 8:45 p.m., no matter who is outside. 2. If a tall woman in a maroon dress knocks, do not answer. Do not speak to her. 3. Do not go into the attic. Ever. 4. If you see a child by the pool at night, stay inside. Lock all windows. 5. The man in the suit visits at 2 a.m. Do not interact with him. 6. Always leave a toy at the base of the stairs before bed. 7. Do not sleep in the upstairs guest room. 8. Check under your bed every night before sleeping. There was no explanation, no signature. I read the list again and again. At first I thought it was a joke, maybe part of the experience. Some rentals do that for fun, but this didn't feel fun. Something about the way the note was written made my skin crawl. I placed the list on the table and walked through the house again. Everything looked normal. I opened every closet, looked behind every door. Nothing seemed out of place. But I still felt that strange pressure in my chest, like the house was watching me. By the time the sun started to set, I had unpacked a little and made myself a sandwich. I sat by the pool, trying to relax. The view was amazing. Soft orange clouds, calm water, the sound of the ocean. But even then, something felt wrong. The wind would blow and the trees would rustle, but sometimes they'd stop all at once, like holding their breath. After dinner, I double-checked the front door lock. It was 8:30 p.m. I remembered the first rule. I sat on the couch with a book, trying to distract myself. The house was quiet. Too quiet. At exactly 8:45, there was a knock at the door. It was soft, slow, like someone didn't want to be heard but hoped I would notice. I froze. My heart started pounding. Another knock. I didn't move. I didn't speak. I just stared at the door. The knocking stopped. Silence. I waited for what felt like hours before I finally crept upstairs and went into the master bedroom. I checked under the bed, just dust and a suitcase. I locked the door behind me and left a small rubber duck I had found in the bathroom at the base of the stairs, just in case. I didn't sleep much that night. Every time I started to drift off, I thought I heard footsteps downstairs, or breathing just outside the bedroom door. This place wasn't normal, and I had a feeling things were only going to get worse. The morning after that strange knocking, I woke up feeling like I hadn't slept at all. My eyes were heavy and my body ached. The light coming in through the window was soft and golden, and for a second, I almost forgot where I was. But then I saw the paper on the nightstand, the list of rules. I sat up and read them again. They were still there, still creepy. After a quick shower, I went downstairs. The rubber duck I had left at the base of the stairs was gone. I froze. I hadn't touched it. I looked around the living room. Everything seemed in place, but I couldn't shake the feeling that someone, or something, had been there during the night. Trying to shake off the fear, I made myself some coffee. The kitchen was peaceful, the smell of coffee helping a bit. I sat at the table, thinking about what I should do. Leave? Call someone? But there was no signal. My phone still had no bars and there was no Wi-Fi password anywhere in the house. I decided to take a walk outside. Maybe some fresh air would help clear my head. The beach was quiet. No other people, no boats in the distance, just sand, sea, and sky. It should have felt peaceful, but it didn't. The silence felt too thick, like even the birds didn't want to make noise. When I came back, I saw something strange. A woman was standing at the front door. She was tall with long black hair and wore a deep maroon dress that almost touched the ground. Her back was to me. I stopped in my tracks. My heart dropped. Rule number 2. If a tall woman in a maroon dress knocks, do not answer. Do not speak to her. She hadn't knocked yet, but she was right there. My mouth went dry. I didn't move. Didn't breathe. Then, slowly, she turned around. Her face was pale, with large dark eyes and lips that didn't move when she spoke. "Good morning," she said softly. "I am the maid. Just doing my check." I didn't reply. I remembered the rule. She stared at me for a long time, waiting. I forced myself to stay still, not to speak. After what felt like forever, she gave a tiny smile, turned, and walked away. No sound from her steps. Just gone. I ran inside and locked the door. My hands were shaking. That wasn't normal. No one should move that quietly. And her eyes, there was something wrong with them. Like she wasn't human. The rest of the day passed slowly. I kept checking every window, every door. Nothing else happened, but the feeling of being watched never left. That evening, I found something else odd. I opened a kitchen drawer to look for a spoon and found a second envelope with my name on it. It hadn't been there in the morning. This time the letter said, "Remember the rules. You are being watched. Failing to follow them may result in consequences you cannot undo. If the maid enters, you must hide. She does not like to be seen in her true form." There was no signature again, just those words. I read them 3 times. I decided I had to be careful. This was no joke. Someone, or something, was playing a very dangerous game. Later that night, I stayed in the living room with the lights on. I didn't want to go upstairs yet. I tried watching a movie, but my eyes kept drifting to the front door. At around 9 p.m., I heard footsteps outside. Slow, careful, then a light knock. I didn't answer. The knocking stopped quickly. I waited, holding my breath. No more sound. Then something even stranger happened. The lights flickered. Once, twice, then they went off completely. I grabbed my flashlight from my bag and turned it on. I walked slowly to the kitchen. Nothing looked wrong. Then I heard it. A humming sound, soft and high-pitched. It was coming from the hallway. I turned and pointed the flashlight. No one was there, but the sound kept going. I followed the sound step by step, heart beating faster. It led me to the small closet near the stairs. I opened it slowly. Nothing. Just coats and shoes. Then the humming stopped. I shut the door and backed away. Something was wrong with this house. I knew that now. I went upstairs quickly and locked myself in the master bedroom. I checked under the bed again. Nothing. This time, I put a small toy car from the welcome basket at the bottom of the stairs. I lay in bed, too afraid to sleep. At exactly 2 a.m., I heard it. Footsteps. Slow, steady, moving through the living room. I didn't move. I didn't breathe. The footsteps stopped at the bottom of the stairs. I could hear something breathing, something large. Then a deep, smooth voice said, "I see you have remembered." Good. Silence followed. I stayed frozen in bed until the sun started to rise. This place wasn't a vacation home. It was something else. And I was starting to think that I might not be able to leave. I didn't sleep at all that night. I lay frozen in bed, the blanket pulled up to my chin, waiting for something, anything to happen. Every creak of the wooden floorboards downstairs made me jump. Every gust of wind outside felt like a whisper against the window. By the time the sun rose, I was still wide awake. My eyes were dry and burning. I dragged myself out of bed, checked under it again. Nothing. The toy car I had placed at the base of the stairs was gone. Again. This time, I didn't panic. I just felt cold inside. A deep, heavy dread that sat in my chest like a stone. I knew I was part of something I didn't understand. The list, the rules, the voices. They weren't warnings. They were survival instructions. I made breakfast, but barely ate it. My hands were shaking as I held the fork. I needed to figure out what was going on in this house. I walked through every room, slowly, carefully. I opened every drawer, checked behind every curtain, under every rug. Nothing. No cameras, no wires, no signs of any people. Then I remembered rule number 3. Do not go into the attic. Ever. I had seen a small wooden panel in the ceiling of the hallway upstairs, just outside the guest room. It had a metal ring to pull it open. I had ignored it before, but now I stood beneath it, staring up. Why was I told not to go up there? Was it fear? Or was it a challenge? My curiosity started to grow, slowly eating away at my fear. Maybe there was something up there that explained everything. Maybe it was the source of all this. I found a stepladder in the laundry closet. I pulled it over and placed it under the attic hatch. As I climbed, I kept thinking, this is a mistake. But I kept going. I pulled the hatch open. A soft cloud of dust fell down, and a warm, musty smell hit me. It wasn't the smell of mold or decay. It was something else. Sweet. Like old flowers and burning candles. I peeked inside with my flashlight. The attic was large but low-ceilinged. Wooden beams crossed over the top, and the floor was covered in old rugs. Strange, colorful rugs, with patterns that made my eyes hurt if I stared too long. There were objects scattered all over. Dolls, books, boxes, mirrors, photos. I stepped up and slowly made my way across the attic floor. The air was hot and thick. The first thing I saw was a small porcelain doll sitting on a chair. Her eyes were open, glassy, staring straight at me. Her dress was maroon. Next to her was a box filled with black and white photographs. I picked one up. It was the house, same as it is now. But the picture looked old, from maybe the 1950s. A family stood in front of it, a man in a suit, a tall woman in a maroon dress, a child. They looked familiar. Then I found a journal. The pages were yellow and cracked, but the writing was clear. Day 3. The maid came again. She stared at me like she knew me. I tried to hide, but she found me. She always finds me. Day 5. I forgot the toy last night. The man came upstairs. He stood at my door and whispered my name. I didn't sleep. Day 7. I opened the attic. I know I wasn't supposed to. I saw the truth. I can't unsee it. The entries stopped there. I put the journal down and turned to leave. But just as I did, I heard something. A soft creaking behind me. I turned slowly. The doll's head had moved. It was now facing the door of the attic. I didn't scream. I just ran. I climbed down the ladder and slammed the attic shut behind me. My heart was pounding in my ears. I pushed the ladder away and sat on the floor, gasping for air. I shouldn't have gone up there. I had broken a rule. That night, I was more careful than ever. I locked all the windows and doors. I left a small teddy bear from one of the bedrooms at the bottom of the stairs. I checked under the bed twice. Then I turned off the lights and waited. At exactly 2 a.m., I heard the man again. His footsteps were louder now, slower. He walked all around the house, into the kitchen, down the hallway, up the stairs. He stopped at my bedroom door. I could hear his breathing, deep, calm. Then he spoke. You saw the attic. Silence. Now you carry the secret too. Then, just like that, he was gone. No footsteps, no doors opening. Nothing. I didn't move for hours. The next morning there was a new envelope on the kitchen table. This one had no name on it. Inside was a single sentence. Stay 3 more days, then you may leave. I didn't know what would happen if I tried to leave early. I didn't know what was keeping me here, or who was watching me. But I knew one thing for sure. The attic held more than memories. It held power. And I had just disturbed it. From that day forward, things started to change. The shadows in the house moved when they shouldn't. I heard voices calling my name from empty rooms. The food in the fridge started to rot faster than it should. The mirrors fogged up even when the room was cold. And the doll. She was no longer in the attic. I found her the next morning on the couch downstairs. Her head tilted, staring at the front door, waiting. I woke up on the 4th morning with a burning headache. It was different this time, not just from stress or fear, but as if something had been pulling at my mind all night. I barely remembered falling asleep. My last memory was sitting in bed, staring at the doll on the living room couch. Now she was gone. I ran downstairs. The doll wasn't on the couch. She wasn't in the attic either. I checked every room in the house. Nothing. A strange relief settled in my chest, but only for a moment. The air in the house had changed. It felt heavier, like the walls were breathing. I tried the front door. It was unlocked. I hadn't touched it. When I stepped outside, I saw footprints on the sand leading away from the house, small, childlike prints, with the faint shape of something dragging beside them. I didn't follow them. I couldn't. Instead, I came back inside and made a new plan. I needed to explore the house again, but this time, with a different eye. There had to be something I missed. I started in the hallway, knocking on each wall, checking for hollow sounds, then the library. I pulled every book from the shelves, checking behind them, under the furniture, inside drawers. It was in the guest room that I found it. A thin line in the wallpaper, barely visible. I pulled at it, and a section of the wall opened with a soft click. A hidden door. Behind it, a narrow wooden staircase led downward into darkness. I hesitated for a long time, but eventually, I turned on my flashlight and descended. The stairs creaked with every step. The air was cold and damp. I reached the bottom and found myself in a stone basement. The walls were lined with shelves holding jars filled with cloudy liquid. Inside each jar floated strange shapes. Some looked like animal parts, others like twisted dolls. There was a table in the center of the room. On it lay an old book, bound in dark leather. I opened it slowly. The pages were filled with handwritten notes, spells, rituals, protection symbols. Some pages were burned at the edges. Others were stained with something dark. One page caught my eye. The offering. To keep the spirits bound, an offering must be made every 7th guest. The child, the voice, the watcher, they must all be acknowledged. To break the pattern is to invite the unseen. I read it twice. 7th guest? Was I the 7th? Suddenly, I heard a voice behind me. You shouldn't be down here. I turned, heart racing. It was the maid. She stood at the base of the stairs, not moving. I remembered the rule again. Don't speak to her. But this time, she didn't wait for me to speak. You opened the door. You read the book. You've made it harder. She stepped into the room. Her feet made no sound. Her face remained still, pale and cold. There are things in this house that do not want to be seen. Now they see you. Now they remember. I stepped back, bumping into the table. Leave this room. Seal it again. Forget what you saw. If you don't, you won't leave here alive. Then she vanished. One blink, and she was gone. Just like that. I didn't need to be told twice. I ran up the stairs, shut the hidden door, and pushed a dresser in front of it. But it was too late. That night, the house changed. The lights began to flicker more often. The air turned colder, even with the heater on. I heard voices in the vents, low, chanting voices in a language I didn't understand. When I looked in the mirror, I saw someone standing behind me. But when I turned around, no one was there. The rules didn't help anymore. I followed all of them, left a toy, hid from the maid, didn't speak. But something had shifted. They knew. I tried writing everything down, hoping it would help me make sense of things. I filled 3 pages with what I remembered: the journal, the attic, the spell book, the footprints. That's when I noticed something strange. The walls in the living room looked different at night. They pulsed, almost like they were alive. And sometimes the wallpaper changed. The patterns rearranged themselves. One night, I sat on the floor and watched it. At exactly 2 a.m., a door appeared. Not a normal door. It had no handle. Just a flat black shape with markings around it. It glowed faintly. I reached out and touched it. The moment I did, a wave of cold rushed through me. I heard whispers, fast and jumbled. Faces flickered in my mind. Faces of people I didn't know, screaming. I pulled my hand back. The door faded. The next day, there was another envelope on the table. Do not touch the black door. It belongs to the unseen. There was no name, no signature. Same handwriting. I was starting to understand. This house was more than haunted. It was a cage, a maze, A trap built for the curious, for the ones who wouldn't follow the rules. And I had broken almost all of them. That night, I put the biggest toy I could find at the stairs, a stuffed giraffe. I closed every window, locked every door, turned off all the lights. At 2 a.m., the black door appeared again. This time it opened on its own. A hand came out, long, pale fingers, too many joints. It didn't grab anything. It just rested on the floor like it was waiting. Then came the voice. One more night, then we decide. I didn't sleep at all. Morning came slowly. The black door was gone. The toy giraffe was in the kitchen sink, soaking wet, and the final envelope was waiting on my bed. Tonight is the last test. Pass, and you may leave. Fail, and you stay. No explanation, no instructions. I had to survive one more night. But I knew the worst was yet to come. The whole day felt like the calm before a storm. Every corner of the house hummed with silent tension. The air was dry, the walls too still. I moved through the rooms slowly, afraid that even the floorboards might scream under my feet. I had read every rule, seen every warning, opened every door I was told not to. But now there was no guidance, no instructions. This was the final test, and I didn't know what it was. At noon, the sky turned gray, and a strange fog started to roll in from the beach. I couldn't even see the shore from the front window anymore. It was as if the house had been cut off from the rest of the world, like it existed in a bubble. Just me, the house, and them. I tried calling someone, anyone, but my phone was still dead, and there was no signal. The landline that had never worked before now had a steady dial tone, but every time I tried to call out, all I heard was static. Once I thought I heard a voice in it, a child's voice, singing a lullaby. I dropped the phone after that. By evening, the lights had started flickering again. I lit candles in every room, hoping they'd keep the darkness at bay. The doll hadn't returned. The maid didn't appear. Even the footsteps that came every night had gone silent. That scared me more than anything. At exactly midnight, the house went completely dark. All the candles blew out at once. No wind, no warning, just darkness. Then a voice whispered from the walls, "Begin." I was frozen in place. My heart pounded in my chest. I couldn't move. Then the hallway lights blinked once, just once. It was enough to guide me forward. I walked toward the staircase. The stuffed giraffe from the night before was gone again. The bottom of the stairs was wet, as if something had been dragged up. I took a deep breath and climbed. At the top, the hallway stretched farther than it ever had before. There were new doors, ones I hadn't seen before. One was red, one blue, one black. Each glowed faintly. I remembered the envelope. Pass, and you may leave. Fail, and you stay. I chose the red door. Inside was a room filled with mirrors, tall, thin, twisted mirrors that bent and swirled. They didn't reflect the room. Instead, they showed other places, other times. In one, I saw the attic. The doll sat in her chair, but she was older now, her dress tattered, her face cracked. In another, I saw the basement. The jars were broken, their contents spilled. Something crawled along the floor. One mirror showed me. Not the current me, but one covered in ash, face pale, eyes empty. My reflection reached out and pressed its hand to the inside of the glass. Then the mirrors all shattered at once. I fell to the floor, shielding my face. When I looked up, the door to the hallway was gone. I was in a different room now, a nursery. The crib in the center rocked slowly. Soft music played from an unseen box. The air smelled like lavender and rust. I approached the crib slowly. Inside, there was no baby, just the doll. She opened her eyes. "You were warned," she said, her voice tiny but sharp. "You didn't listen." I backed away. The walls of the room began to peel, revealing wood underneath, raw, splintered wood like the inside of a coffin. The crib burst into flames. I ran. The next room I entered was cold and made entirely of mirrors again, but this time there was no reflection at all. Just blackness. A figure stepped out of the shadows. The man. The one who walked the stairs. He stood in front of me, taller than I remembered. His face was still a blur, like a smudged painting. "Do you understand now?" he asked. I nodded, though I didn't fully, but I knew enough. This house fed on something: fear, mistakes, broken rules. It existed to test people, to punish them. He pointed to a door behind him, plain, wooden, no color. "That door leads out, but only if you choose correctly." "Choose what?" I asked. "Who stays?" The air went cold. Behind me, I heard the maid's voice. "You brought something back. Something that doesn't belong. It must stay." She stood beside the doll now, both of them staring at me. "What did I bring?" I asked. The man stepped forward. "Your fear, your memories, your guilt. They don't just go away. One must stay. One must always stay." The walls of the room began to pulse. 3 figures appeared in front of the door, me, the maid, and the doll. I understood then. One had to stay behind. One had to take the weight of the house, to keep the balance. The final test wasn't about surviving. It was about sacrificing. I thought of everything that had happened. The rules, the warnings, the traps, the visions, the voices. "If I stay," I said slowly, "does the next guest get a chance to leave?" The man nodded. "And if I leave, the house resets. The game begins again." I stepped forward. I looked at my reflection in one of the broken mirror shards. I looked tired, lost, but also, for the first time, clear. "Then I stay." The maid stepped back. The doll's smile widened. The man nodded once, then vanished. The house shuddered. The lights flickered back on. The hallway returned to normal. And I changed. My body went cold. My thoughts slowed. My heartbeat faded. But I felt no fear. I was part of the house now, its new watcher. The rules would be rewritten. The cycle would continue. And someday, someone else would come. Someone who didn't read the rules carefully. Someone who thought they could figure it out. And I would be waiting. On the front porch, the doll sat quietly, staring at the ocean. Behind her, a new envelope waited on the hallway table. "Welcome to your stay. Please read the rules carefully. Failure to follow them will result in consequences." A new guest would arrive soon, and the house would be ready.